thought, we are going to buy this roster. And Pedersen jumped with his team onto Guardian and made it into the playoff in his debut and their debut NLC split. Didn't make it far in that run, but he has actually made NLC playoffs back in the beginning of our, merging of our regions.
Onto the Rift, though, for game number 1. JK, not actually just yet. We've got to make sure that everything is set up. I think that those settings, I'm seeing champion names over champions, which is all very well and good for the mental in solo queue, but I don't believe it's what we're looking for. JK,
it's not beneficial.
JK, that's not the issue. It's not the issue. I'm going to stop predicting what production are changing without confirmation, because that's going to land us both in trouble. And for the time being, what we get to see on this bot side is how to play versus Heimerdinger. Kill turrets, don't take damage. Easy enough.
Yeah, this is actually really interesting, because this is something I watched in the LEC when Guldborg had to explain this. Heimerdinger plays his turret down at that little bottom corridor because it doesn't hit the minions initially, so it doesn't push the wave out for him. And we do see Riddle taking that away, being aware of the strengths of that Heimerdinger pick. As it is now in the mid lane, Fire Rain instantly goes in for a very aggressive trade, as we're going to zoom back out and take a look at what the junglers do.
Okay, so first of all, both of these mid laners have gone for first strike, so the fact that Fire Rain is the one proccing it is innately very strong for the Silas, gets him a little bit more gold. I also want to say, Silas should never be the one proccing first strike in this matchup when he starts with E. Syndra has got way too much range for that to be allowed, and we are just seeing the power of Fire Rain in a 1v1 right now. Paul is already down to a third of his HP, has chugged both potions already. We are 2 minutes and 10 seconds into the game. And I'm looking at, D-Shield in the mid lane. There's a lot of health, or a lot of sustain in that already with an extra potion. Fire Rain's playing really well.
Yeah, so as you're saying, Fire Rain playing really well, the Carillion port, of course, but I want to take a look at our junglers and see where they are. So they have started on opposite sides of the map, and we're starting up on this top side, while Johan started us on bottom side. This means they won't meet each other for the Scotland Crabs, but what does this mean for where they initially want to put that pressure?
Interestingly, I'll say playing toward the Varus Heimerdinger lane, this says that Antwer's sort of predicting an answer, or predicting a gank potentially from Johan, saying that he wants to support this 3v3 that he's anticipating on the bot side. But that's actually not going to be the case. He's actually moving up toward this top side, and Johan is going to be ganking the Ornn, or at least in position to gank for the Ornn, right? It doesn't necessarily have to happen. But I am expecting this Nord to be under a little bit of pressure through the early stages. I'm going to cut back to ourselves for just a little bit, though, so keep you guys, enticed, excited about where the junglers go, because you're never bound by full clear into gank as a jungler. Yes, it's a great notion, and obviously you can do it, but in certain instances, you just want to get a crab, you just want to reset, get some vision down. There are lots of things that you can do on this window. Both of them are going to opt into the crab now, and then we're going to see potentially where the first discrepancies happen. This is where you either base and reset your camps, this is what Antwer's looking for, or potentially go for vision in the enemy jungle whilst you've got a bit of a window.
Yeah, so Johan now recalling as well, looking like both junglers do just want to go back and not really look to gain anything, just research those camps as you said. So, talking a bit more about this 2v2, safe to say Keeper doesn't have much roaming potential in this early game, but going up against the Heimerdinger, how does this matchup work out? And how is Keeper supposed to play this?
Keeper is already doing exactly what he's supposed to do. Sit attached, heal Reptile. There is going to be poke coming from Varus. There is going to be poke coming from Heimerdinger. Keeper's job is to sustain mana and heal up his AD carry. And thus far, it's going perfectly well, right? They're fairly even in CS. There's a reset going to come through for the Uniq bot side right now. It's not particularly the most difficult lane to know how to execute, more so whether or not they can execute on it by dodging out on the skill shots from those missiles, from any projectiles launched by Cyrex. And as we can see thus far, not all bad. Want to quickly draw your attention to the rune choices of this bot lane as well, and in particular to Cyrax. I asked, would he go for the lethality? Would he go for the on-hit? Lethal Tempo strongly suggests the on-hit, so I'm a lot happier, and there's a lot more of an idea that they can indeed kill this Ornn. The question I will have, though, is how many auto attacks are you going to be able to do versus a Sylas and a Wukong? Because Wukong has been the bane of Varus's life for the last, I'll say, 6 months of League of Legends. Sylas on top of that, when he's stealing away Gnar ultis, stealing away Chains of Corruption. It could be difficult for Cyrax to navigate these team fights, regardless of build.
See how that does end up working out when we get to that point. Drake now on the map, and as Pedersen rotates, they might want to look for something mid if they don't It could go towards Drake. Regardless, though, they are on a mission for something as Person just looks to head back to his lane after gaining that little bit of vision.
Yeah, just a little roam window there from Pearson, just taking the little bit of time extra to walk into the mid lane, lay down just a smattering of vision, even if it is just that one ward, adds that element of safety for Paul. Not going to be particularly relevant for the time being, as we can see. Johan is up on this top side, has made his way in, and now with Nihus at 6, this could be a great bait.
Yeah, a bit too aggressive there. She actually double jumps forward, does have the Mega Gnar, and will be able to gnaw them away. Flash still available if he felt like it would be needed, but just instantly starts the recall. Riddle say okay, and hard pushed away.
Yeah, I really like the instant recall, actually, because he knows that there's a big wave going to get crashed into his turret, wants to get back to base to regen his health, and then teleport back into the lane so he misses as little as possible underneath that turret. A gank that ultimately doesn't really yield that much. Nihu's burning ulti there isn't too impactful. It means that the all-in potential has gone down a little bit, but Banderas was probably going to be fine in that 1v1 anyway. Nihu's now just has a little bit less all-in capability, and it opens up Antwerp to do exactly what we see them doing, taking the Drake down on the bot side.
Yeah, that will obviously be secured away. No contention at all, as Johan is just taking away the red buff in response. And talking a bit more about the top lane in terms of all-in potential, Banderas has rushed, ran any percent Warden's Mail, so the damage from Nihus will be very limited at this point of the game as well. So, personally speaking, as an R player, I would not expect an all-in at this point because you simply can't deal any damage to him. But eyes on Andor actually, because he realizes his red buff is now being taken away, and he will respond by taking away Johan's red buff himself.
Yeah, so nothing is actually... I'll say this is obviously beneficial for Uniq, just because all of the camps are traded, but they get an extra dragon out of it. Nihus didn't burn flash, which is the really important part about that top gank. What I now need to see is a potential look back up toward the top lane, see if they can burn Nihus flash, see if they can look to exploit the mini Gnar potentially with that squishiness that he has innately. You've got Wukong level 6 now, you've built into this Caulfield's Warhammer, so a bit more CDR oriented, but you do have some damage in there regardless. And actually, really great highlighting from our observers here. Kiba abandoning Reptile for the first time ever, setting out on the map. Rift Herald spawns in about 10 seconds. It's actually just spawned now, Duckling, so we attach to the Wukong, who is level 6, and we pray that we can have a great fight.
Yeah, last year, Kiba spent a lot of his time roaming on things like Nautilus, getting around the map himself. Now, just has to find the nearest taxi and jump on board, as he will now look to get this Rift Herald with his team. Paul looking to reset as well, so there will be a mid lane weaker, as Fire Rain has already made his way back into the mid lane. Man advantage here for Riddle. Priority as well on the top lane, so they'll just move in. Let's see what Pearson can do. Andrew, could theoretically run in and try and steal it, but it's a fight they don't want to risk, right?
Looks like there's not been too much of a contest. Nihus here, just throwing a boomerang. Rift Herald does get secured, and that's off the earlier base timer. It looks like the fact that Kiba was there, he's obviously lost a lot of experience. It has been gained by Reptile as a solo, but that early move from the support opens up the window for a Rift Herald take, and now we get to see, does Johan repay that? Is he going to look to, put it down on the spot side and give Reptile a bit of gold back? Or is it going to be the case that we're looking to break open this Silas, give Fire Rain a bit more of a window into the match and accelerate his pacing?
Let's see what happens up in top in here. Nihus does have the ult available. Good damage though from Banderas. Exhaust coming out as well. Very nice interrupt on the hour way. Nihus still has the flash though, so could look to get out. Banderas set to follow, and as that Q misses barely, Nihus makes it out alive.
Oh, it's not done yet, Johan.
Johan is gonna pick this up. That's the first blood as well. He's always where he needs to be. And that's Herald that they could put down as well. No TP on Nihus, as he will also respawn in just 20 seconds.
Yeah, I wonder what the play is going to be. They've obviously got a great window to use the Herald, but look at this response from Uniq. Paul roaming down from the mid lane had that push. We've got Antwerp here as well. This is a 4v2, TP ready.
Yeah, on the hunt available, as Reptile will just run, not hunting anyone, as they will do some damage back on Antwerp, but he's tanky. No one will die though. Fire Rain forced to TP, and that's all Uniq get out of it.
5 summoner spells though, burned by Riddle. All 4 combat sums off of Riddle, the teleport as well, in exchange for just the ghost off Antwerp and actually Cyrax's flash. The chain of corruption going wide there does actually cost them quite significantly. They may have been able to chase down Reptile and catch him out under the turret if that chain lands, but it's not the case, and Reptile, with some fancy feet, some great timing of the cooldowns, does get out to safety.
That is something that I will keep my eyes on. How do they punish this though? Because it's all good and well getting the summoners, but you need to be able to get more and get some sort of advantage out of those massive cooldowns. Reptile still formants and the flash, of course, as now it looks to be the bot lane of Uniq caught out. Cyrex luckily gets away as Johan clones forward but unable to find anyone.
Nothing doing down on that bot side, but we have made it to 10 minutes, 11 minutes into this game right now, and the game is still fairly even. A reminder that everybody said, well, we're expecting this to be fairly Riddle-sided. And as we look later and later into the game, I do tend to agree with that. I'm quite happy with a Sivir Ornn as a basic duo for late game supremacy. You add on top of the fact that you've got Yuumi and a Wukong causing a massive amount of disruption on that back line. I really don't mind Riddle playing this one a little slower. The fact that they've only got the one kill doesn't scream, we need to be sounding the alarm and danger alert because they're going to be falling behind and getting outscaled. Uniq do have tools for the late game, don't get me wrong. But an Enchanter is going to scale better than the Heimerdinger, and the Sivir we know is a menace in a late game team fight, much more than an on-hit Varus will be.
And it's very important to mention as well here, Rude, that they are actually even in gold despite being down a kill, thanks to their good CSing. There's a small CS lead in both top, jungle, and AD carry. As a very minor one in mid lane as well, 3 CS over into the favor of Uniq, and as Riddle will now look to get this second Drake, they will even that score out, but they are still slightly behind in the CS department.
And as you mentioned here, Duckling, second Drake was the call. It looks like Riddle are going to be able to take this one fairly freely. I really like that Banderas had already reset, had moved his way into this bot side because they'd placed a lot of priority here on this Riddle. They don't need the Ornn, but they may well regret that TP away.
Yeah, TP can come in from Nihus if he wants to. Will be quite a bit away though, and the Drake falls low, and it has been secured by Pillarson as Johan decides to go for the fight. Instead, Cyrex taken down, 2 kills for Zero as Reptile down to 1 HP. The grenade misses though, and that means 2 kills for Riddle, but the Drake to Uniq.
Yeah, they get the Drake Duckling, but it's at what cost, right? They lose their AD, they lose their mid laner, both of which would love to be farming these waves right now. But that's 10-15 seconds they are off the map, not getting experience, not getting gold, not getting items that they're going to need to carry later on into this game. And that second Drake secure is great for Uniq. It's the missiles actually that steal it. Kind of a strange one to see the support able to take it away. But the mid and bot just get fed to the wolves, really. We see Antwerp just kind of running away as soon as they recognize their carries are dead, which is pretty much what you're supposed to be doing, in fairness. So with this Divine Sunderer picked up for Johan, he's now in a very good position on the Wukong to make more plays, to accelerate the pace of the game. They're 3 kills to the good now, and whilst we mentioned that gold lead was in favour of Uniq, it's just now tippled over into Riddle's favour off the back of those kills, and expect now to be that window where we really see it skyrocket. 1,300 gold discrepancy between these two junglers. It's the difference of the completed Mythic versus not having one for Antwerp, and I do expect to see Johan out and about on the map when that Cyclone comes back up in about 20-30 seconds to make more plays happen.
At the very least though, Rude, I will say I find this to be a massive positive for Uniq and for the league as a whole, right? Riddle were dominant in week number 1, very quickly taking games of their opponents and building early leads and snowballing them to near perfection. This time around though, Uniq and O2 team are keeping them at bay. Yes, it is only 15 minutes, the game is far from over, but it could still go anywhere, and I honestly had a bit of a horror scenario where, Riddle would get a couple early kills, snowball that lead, and the game would be done in 5 minutes time. But this feels like it's a game that could go on for 20-35 minutes more, really. It could be a very close one, and both teams could still come out on top.
Time now to take a quick look at another build path. I'll hold it, actually. Johan is top lane, and we do see Nihus with that Megan already. They're just waiting for the hop right now.
Yeah, Kiba is there as well, so it's a 3v1. Nihus starts at the flash. Last chapter comes out. Forge Guard as well. Yeah, he's spinning around for hours at a time. Frequent flyer miles as Johan will secure that one. That's his 3rd kill of the game as they will look to take the top lane tier 1 after that.
Shout out Kiba, make sure that he's getting his Spell Thief gold and getting his fair share as well. Accelerate yourself toward Your mythic of choice, be it the Moonstone, be it the Shirelles, don't know which one it's going to be just yet. But with that top tier 1 not actually being the one that falls first, it was a race against the bot lane, and it's a race that Uniq have won. They did put a lot of stock into this bot side, if you recall, relative to Riddle. Kiba has been more at liberty to take those roams, and obviously when you pick a Heimerdinger matchup, you are going to be winning out in that bot lane push fairly significantly, so no surprises to see the first brick fall in favour of Cyrax. But again, it's worth mentioning that that's a lot of gold invested into this Varus. Cyrax is the one that has all of the resources thus far from Uniq, and we have to see whether or not that return on investment is going to be effective.
And I do want to talk about this as well in terms of the AD carries, because these are two different playstyles, I would say, in terms of what you're building, right? Cyrax going for the unhit, while Reptile is going for the crit. When we reach the late point of the game, is there any of these two styles, you know, the full crit or the unhit, that outscales the other?
I mean, I think that's very champion dependent, right? If you've got a Vayne in this situation, then I think that's very different to having a Varus. I think this does actually come down to champion specifics, and I'm always going to give the edge over to a Sivir if you're getting a clumped up team fight, just because of those ricochets and the rework that happened to him midway through Season 12 just became so much more dominant in a team fight. If we get to a late game phase, Reptile just has my number. I think that beside champions as well, I favour Reptile as an AD carry over Cyrax. So all of the signs for me pointing toward the Riddle ADC.
I mean, that's a very fair answer, and likely a team fight could be on the cards as well. Soul Point very early on the cards in just 45 seconds. Person already trying to get some area control, but as Riddle have 5 man towards this mid lane and River, they have the area at the moment.
The little dance that you do now, as everybody knows this Drake is the objective of choice, who can get control of mid lane and then leverage that into control of the river. You see Riddle, they were confident enough to step up and clear the way first. They get to have access to this river first of all. Nice little angle, I will say, from Banderas. He's just hovering below Uniq, and if they get too comfortable around this big knuckle, they could be in trouble.
Yeah, there's the engage. The Gnar hijacked away, and it one-shots Nihus alongside as all the other ultimates goes out. That is 5 ultimates used on the side of Riddle as they will move towards the Drake, just spawning now. 4v5, Uniq do still have 3 ultimates available though.
Yeah, this bot side river for red side is such a big commitment to play around that big choke right there. You can see trying to get out of that river into the lane. Such a long walk and actually very difficult to do, and immediately Riddle spot the angle, Johan goes in, Kiba on the back, and the Call the Forge God from downtown. It's all too easy. The team fighting for Riddle just lines itself up essentially and makes it a one and done situation for them. Uniq can't press forward to get the dragon. They don't feel comfortable to press forward and hit this mid turret either. So Riddle just get everything they want and are completely controlling this mid game.
I will say I have been very impressed by Riddle in the NLC Division 1 so far, particularly, you know, how much on the same page they've been. It's very rare to see a team with so many different players from so many different previous teams come together and so immediately be on the same page, read from the same story, and commit to the same place, because everyone agreed they had to go there and they just one-shot Nihus. He didn't have anything he could do, as all the ultimates came out in unison, just took him down.
And obviously, reminded that this is a team with 2 Korean imports on, those communication barriers you expect to be there. But what we got a little bit of insight to last week, an interview with one of the Riddle staff players afterwards, is that Firen and Johan just speak fluent English, right? That's not necessarily an issue that they are running into. So they're feeling very confident to make these calls and make these plays aggressively and try to find these fights.
And that could very often be the thing, as many of the Korean imports have failed, you know, communication issues. Yes, they were good players, but the team just never really came together, and it feels like this has already succeeded here, as you say. They speak fluent English, that barrier simply isn't there, and they still have the skill. As the Korean player would see, 3 kills, 2 assists. Johan has been involved with every bit of action that has happened this game for Riddle, and has been immensely successful already after 3 games, and it's very clear to feel that this guy has been at the top of the LCK. Reminder, he has gotten 3rd place in a split playing against Down1 T1, and he was playing, it's not like he was a substitute, he was their main jungler for Hanwha in 2021, so it's no surprise when we found out he still had the level that he's able to perform this way.
Yeah, it's good for us to come in with those expectations a little dimmer, obviously, after a year off, but it's even better for us to see that that was unfounded and that this guy is actually still incredibly talented at jungle, at League of Legends. So kudos to Johan for, as we've mentioned, what has been a fire start to the split. And hopefully they can just look to extend it here. 3-0 is looking on the cards for them. That gold lead may only be 1,000, but in terms of momentum, the way the game has been going, Riddle are really in control right now. They've stopped the Drake stacking for Uniq. They are keeping Reptile on pace with his farm. He's even with the Varus right here, and shouldn't really feel too uncomfortable going into a late game team fight. The threat from a Udyr is obviously a lot more telegraphed, doesn't have a stealth like a Wukong does to try and cause issues. And you can just see, on top of the fact that the Udyr is a little more difficult to get into the backline with, it's a lot more difficult to take out this Wukong than you might expect because there's a Yumi on his back.
Yeah, he's very fast and heals quite a bit as well. Does still have the clone, and that will go out. Final chapter pop, but just to make sure that Johan is safe. Baron on the map as well, but I should say, the goal... Go on.
It's just as we praise the communication between the team. There's a miscommunication there. I think clone is enough to get out. They opt to go for final chapter and clone. Probably only needed one of those, but anyway, carry on.
Yeah, so what I wanted to ask you here, Rude, is because I want to take it over to Unique's perspective. You say the goal lead is, yes, it's only really 2k, it's not all doom and gloom, but the momentum very much in Riddle's favor. But what can Unique do now to get back? They're hitting their item spike, and as I say that, Johan looking for something, unable to find it. But they're not that far behind in gold. What can they do to get back?
I need to see them try and lane assign the Gnar versus the On. I think that's their best way to generate an advantage somewhere. Put Nihus up against Banderas, has a level advantage, has got a Trinity Force, and is sitting on, I imagine, a lot of gold right now to, get into that second item spike. The issue is that Riddle have done a very good job at matching with Sylas instead, and obviously that Sylas is a completely different fiend for Nihus to try and take out. Is 1 minute away from having that fully stacked Rod of Ages, is almost finished that Zonya's Hourglass as well. So going into the 1v1 Sylas versus Gnar, I don't know who I'd want to give the 1v1 edge over to, but if I'm looking at this from Unique's perspective, Nihus should know that he can dumpster Banderas in the side lane. If he can get into that 1v1, there's a window for Unique to have a lead.
It's something at the very least. As the 2,000 goalie doesn't feel like much, but as you're saying, the momentum so much in Riddle's favor. And at the moment, I'm waiting, eyeing on that Baron. When will they start up? When will they go for the play? Or will they say, no, not now. There's still another drink spawning in 10 seconds. We could go for that instead and just continue denying Unique that sort of win condition by getting the soul.
Yep, and Riddle know exactly what they need to do this game, is that at some point they will be able to just hit Baron, it will die, and they can use that to close out a game. As long as Reptile's farming and getting consistent sources of income, Riddle don't really care, because this Sivir will be able to carry them through the late game. This slow, methodical approach to how to close out this game really doesn't bother me at all, and you can see they're heading toward that dragon. The pressure now obviously on Unique to say, we're going to make a play on the other side of the map. There are 3 people from Riddle down in this bot lane, and they've bitten. They've said, okay, we'll do the Baron now. What are you going to do about it? Do you stop the Drake? Do you not? All it ends up being is just a clearing of vision and a bit of a hit onto this top tier 1 turret. And again, if you're Riddle, you're more than happy with that. Don't mind sacrificing a little bit here because you know you're not losing the Baron. And when this Drake goes down, you're now in a much better position to try and set up for this Baron. Play through top, play through mid lane, control that top side jungle, and try and play for picks.
And while Unique so far are surviving 24 minutes without being a sizable goalie down, mentioned it a million times, I'll say it one last time, momentum against their favor. Riddle feel in control as they've picked up the last 2 neutral objectives as well. But talking a bit more about Reptile here, I do want to highlight, if you guys didn't know where this guy came from, he popped up on Unicorns of Love 6th edition in the spring split over in the Prime League and had very good success, made it through the play-ins of the Amazon European Masters, made it all the way to the quarterfinal where he was very, very important in their important fights in their group stage games, especially against some of the bigger teams. And as he now found himself in summer, unable to really find his footing, he got benched and Shikanari came in instead. Unicorns of Love had this massive success without him, and a lot of people forgot about Reptile, but as he has now come to the NLC on Riddle, he's really shown himself back and say, yeah, I'm still insane. I've made top 8 at Amazon European Masters. Respect me. And he has definitely delivered that level of high level of AD carriness over here in the NLC.
Yeah, demanded really that his opponents give him the respect. Has had, like I say, 2 stellar performances thus far already, and now you can see Riddle really implementing that plan of choke out topside vision, play for a fight with Johan on the back, or Johan on the back of an engage. We're really looking for just one more fight to really snowball this game. Like you said, Duckling, that the gold lead isn't too large. There's still that window that we feel like Uniq might be able to find a 5v5 that could go their way if they have a little bit of an outplay, if they manage to get a good, successful team fight going where Nihus finds a big mega or something of the like. There is a window still for a win for Uniq here. The game is by no means over, but Nihus being caught is not the answer.
And wow, he's dead. He can absolutely explode. The 4th time that has happened this game, an unfortunate one for the Danish veteran. He has struggled to find his footing in this game, despite getting that 2 item spike.
I will say, though, if Riddle don't get more from this, I actually favour the last couple of minutes for Uniq. They are looking to extend this into a Baron. Nihus has 25 seconds before he respawns, but has TP. The big front line for Uniq isn't particularly there without this, nor it's really on Antwerp to try and get in and cause disruption. Buy space for Cyrex, buy space for Paul. It looks like they've done it. They've stopped the Baron. It's a kill in the top side. Can they get Nilsson, though?
Yeah, no cycle on Johan, and he's quite there.
If we look at the last sort of 2 minutes or so, Uniq have taken mid tier 1, bot tier 2 in exchange for Riddle getting a kill onto Nihus, who was already 0-3, so is going to be worth a little bit less in respect to that gold. So Uniq actually making some fairly decent map moves and getting themselves that more generation of gold to keep them competitive in this match.
And when we then get to the point where there will be a big 5v5 that very likely will decide the outcome of the whole game, on Riddle, you have a lot of strong members, right? Reptile on 2.5 items, 2.5 items on Fire Rain as well. Johan 3-0-3 on a Wukong with a Yuumi on him, with 2 damage-oriented items as well. Which one of these is the most important target for Uniq to focus? Who are we keeping our eyes on to say when they are down, Uniq have a chance?
Sivir, always Sivir. Late game marksman's a king, right? So as we get into these late game team fights, you have to try and find Reptile, see if you can get an angle onto him. He hasn't finished that Infinity Edge yet, which could be pivotal for this upcoming fight. I mean, pending something is going to happen. Baron down to 8,500, TP available for Nihus, he's looking for it.
Yeah, Johan goes over and they have rooted up Paul, who's forced to go golden. Pedersen already dead, and the knockup not able to find him, but Paul will be found by death himself. As Antwerp, Nihus, and Cyrex now on the run, it is Riddle who will turn back towards the Baron and likely secure it.
The turn, Death Ball, and engage is just too easy for Riddle. They've called the Forge God. They can Wukong clone into Cyclone over the wall, catch out Pedersen, catch out Paul. Both of these mages fall in a split second. And Riddle secure themselves the Baron. It's been a long time coming here, took them up to 28 minutes. But that slow and steady pace of the game has really favoured them. They go back, Reptile finishes the Infinity Edge. We get to see this 3-item Sivir now out onto the map. Uniq, if they extend for a little bit too long here, may go for this Drake, but with 25 seconds still before it spawns, I imagine they're going to get pushed off of this, and now Riddle should really look to force the issue. See if they can find a lot more turrets and probably break open the base with this. They have got such powerful carries. Banshee's Veil finished now for Fire Rain as well. Level 17, picking him off is going to be so difficult, and that's 2 carries already that I feel are going to be out DPSing everybody from Uniq.
And not only did Riddle get the Baron, they also got the 3rd item on Reptile as well as Fire Rain, so that's now a Banshee's Veil. So Fire Rain has become tankier, does more damage as well. Reptile getting a massive 3-item power spike with that Infinity Edge. And that's the 3rd Drake from both teams, soul points for Riddle and Uniq now on the map. It's very hard for Uniq to even walk into their own jungle as Johan is here, and he will simply one-shot anyone who steps into his vicinity. And now it's Pedersen to fall as well. That's the double kill over to the side of Riddle, and with the Baron, they can simply push down mid lane and look to take an inhibitor at the least.
They don't even need the Drake Duckling. Yes, it's a nice formality that they can pick it up, but it's not the soul. They're not going to be bound by it. Send one member, it's not a big deal. Johan can finish this one off. Reptile through the mid lane destroys these turrets in a second with that Phantom Dancer, the best turret killing Zeal item you can go for on a marksman. And here's that replay, right? Just like I said, Wukong has been the bane of Varus's existence for so long at this point that it's so easy for Johan to find a way in. So easy for him to take down Cyrax. They're looking for fire rain, but there's a TP behind.
Yeah. This could be the first kill for Uniq in this whole game, as Firing goes quite low. Kingsley could be available in a couple of seconds. He goes golden, buys the time for Antwerp to fall, and he's out to safety. 11-0 on the kill board. Now the gold lead starting to reflect that as well.
Yeah, and the game slowly but surely here has just descended into Riddle-favoured anarchy. Little few picks here and there, kills that have gone their way that they probably shouldn't have received. That, for example, an overchase from Uniq. But it's just a great look for Riddle. They've got this inhibitor down in the mid lane. They can use Banderas just to coax in these super minions and have the carries out in the side lanes, farming those up and pushing in those side waves also.
I am being told by our production that we do have some ping issues, and that's the reason of this pause, and that's why you get to look at me and Rudu's handsome faces for a couple more minutes tonight. How lucky can you guys be? As Rudu, let's just kind of summarize what happened this game, right? Because, yes, the goal lead was close for a very, very long time, but every time a fight or something happened, it felt like Riddle were in control and had all the momentum in the world.
Yeah, they just had the setup for it, and I think this comes down to a little bit of the compositional differences of these two teams. A Wukong versus an Udyr, for example. A Wukong is going to be able to find really powerful 5v5 engages. We get to see as well just like these little glimpses of early game power that we did see from Riddle. They didn't find the kill here, but these were highlights that we don't see from Uniq, right? We're showing these Riddle plays through the early game, and granted, these weren't particularly important to the outcome of the game, but it just goes to show you how when they're making the proactive plays, they make them successful. And this is a great example of one that didn't pan out for Uniq. That 4v2 dive on the bot side didn't end up going their way. And this is that first real glimpse at a 5 versus 5, even though the top laners aren't there. It's still that larger scale skirmish that goes in favor of Riddle, pretty much the story of the match.
And it's so crazy how no one from Riddle has died. There have been multiple incidents where they have been low, but they just didn't fall, and it feels like Uniq now really getting punished for that, unable to get that extra bit of gold. They have been good picking up the turrets, they have been good to not die too much, all things considered, but after that Baron fight, it just all goes out of control. As you can see here, they can't even step into their own jungle, and they just lose objectives left, right, and center.
It's a little bit of a tricky one as well, right? With Cyrax being caught out on those wolves, you saw actually the check with the rockets, and it's one of those where you're like, surely there's nobody in here. We're not anticipating there's people this far up in our jungle. So you throw the rockets in and then chase after them, anticipating that it's clear, but then they hit something and you sort of jump scared a little bit by the fact that there's actually a target in there, and all of a sudden, once you've registered that, it's gone through your brain. It's too late. Cyrax has been jumped on. It's been taken out by Johan. So overall, a really methodical closeout by Riddle. They have been very strong when it comes to taking these leads and accelerating the pace of the game at their own pace. It is worth mentioning. You know, we touched on that this game has been a little bit, not necessarily slower, but it's been leisurely, I'm going to go with, right? It wasn't a, okay, 20 minutes has hit the board, they're 10k gold, so they're good, this game's already done for. It has been, okay, we've got Sivir, we'll take the advantages where you present them, aka Nihu stepping up in side lanes, has had a bit of a tough time of just not quite respecting the vision that he's got, and just giving over a few freebies over to Riddle.
Yeah, I very much agree with that sentiment as well, because it was what I was expecting. I was expecting chaos. I was expecting many kills to go back and forth, but it was always Riddle who would come out a tiny bit on top. I did not expect this clean of a performance, this control of a performance from Riddle level. Yes, it would extend the whole game time, but they have felt in control for 90% of the game, if not more. So very, very impressed by Riddle. I will say there have been some good things in here as well from Uniq. I have liked some of their ideas. The execution hasn't always been there, but these are positives, so that to me, going up against what is one of the two strongest teams in our region, it's very nice to be able to play this sort of even game state and trade some objectives here and there. When they get a turn, you get a turn as well. It's good things to build upon throughout the next coming weeks and start getting those wins on the board hopefully soon.
Yeah, like you say, right, before that, Baron was really happy with their objective play, taking turrets around the map. It's important to remember as well that Uniq, who are 0-2 and on the verge, it looks like, of going 0-3, have had the hardest schedule that you could get in NLC. They have played Ruddy, they have played Nord, and now they are playing Riddle. So those are the three games that going in, I think that a lot of our teams are a bit more skeptical about whether or not they can take wins. Uniq, yes, they've not been boasting wins on the board just yet, but their strength of schedule has been incredibly tough. So I think going into not just tomorrow, but to future weeks as well, the fact that we've seen these highlights from Uniq could very well be a glimpse of what they can perform like up against teams that might not have the same pedigree as the three that we've just seen them lose to.
And that is, a positive, right? We're looking for positives because, let's be honest, it has been a rough off-season for Riddle as a whole. We're only down to 8 teams now. We're not even in the studio. I'm sitting at home all of a sudden. So to see the fact that we still have teams, able to improve, able to show a good level, and I will say Riddle look like a really good team. I would be happy if we send someone of their caliber, regardless of the names, to the now EMEA Masters. We have to remember that. That's changed now. But I would be happy if we send someone who can be competitive because, to be honest, we had that one split, 3 teams, everything was going to be going great. And now, we're unaccredited, we only have 2 seeds. But if we can send at the very least 1 or 2 seeds that will be competitive and be able to take down the other non-accredited ERLs, so we can say we're the best of those guys, I will be very satisfied personally.
Yeah, of course. I think that we've got 3 very strong seeds to be sending here. The question has been, I know that the NLC gets 2 seeds. The NLC, as this league, has got 3 strong teams that we are all sort of seeing which of the ones are going to get sent. So there's a lot of expectation, I feel like, for the region as a whole to boast that, we did get unaccredited, but we still fight back because we aren't one of those, credited ERLs anymore, but we could still potentially be top 3, top 4, because obviously with the incorporation of the TCL, the Arabian League as well, there is a lot more talent on display, and where the NLC falls in that pecking order is now a lot more disputed.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how we stack up against the other ERLs, particularly Ultra League, because those guys are still accredited. And I do think that we should be able to at the very least match that level of gameplay. I would be satisfied with that. If we could take a game off Prime League as well, that would feel very good. Obviously, we don't have the same rivalry with them anymore because we don't share the same studio. Regardless, though, I think, the issues should be resolved within 2 to 5 minutes, I have been told. But that's in TV time, so it could be 10, 20. I don't know how long I'll be sitting here before we get back into the game. And Rude, with that, I will be taking you on a journey with me to what I call bring me your top 2. If you today were to send 2 teams to the EMEA Masters, Rude, which 2 teams would you send? I'm gonna put you on the spot. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Now, do you want me to send the 2 teams that I want to have the best chance at winning, or that would give us the best content?
The 2 teams that would make us the most proud in terms of performance. How far they could go.
Yeah, all right. I'll take Riddle because I don't think you can doubt how they've performed, and I think that whilst obviously they've got these Korean imports on the team as well, if we're looking for particularly regional pride, that might not resonate quite so much. But I think that making the region proud as a whole, I think that with the level of performance they've put out, they'd be a very good show or very good team to send. I'm going to throw a little bit of a spanner into the works here because this isn't one that I don't think people would have expected. But I think for a bit more flavor, I want to send over Verdant because they have got 5 Scandinavian players. They are all, indoctored into the region, and they've also got a different style to I think anybody in the league. I think that they have a very clear defined play style. We've seen Nilla thus far really perform on split push duty. There's a little bit more for them to flesh out before it gets completely flawless, and that's to be expected, right? We're not on the LEC stage. This is still the division below, but I do think that sending Verdant would give an extra little bit of layering to the NLC that teams might not expect.
That is actually really spicy. You didn't take Nord, and obviously they went 2-0. They have a strong roster, and we all know how the LFL has been carrying us in terms of viewership whenever Nord is about to play. So very brave of you to say that those guys would not be going. If you then were to change that list,
I'm sorry.
They will find you.
Yeah.
Regardless, though, Rude, if you were to change it to top 2 in content, can you give me that before we throw it to a break?
Okay, so top 2 for content, I would have gone for Verdant as well, just by nature of the split push. But then you've got to put Ruddy in there, because I think that Ruddy have been the content kings thus far for social media content and for actually, playing to have some good fun on the Rift. Game number 1, they slaughtered their opponents. Game number 2, they got slaughtered. They've had the best up and down. So across the board, that's where you're going.
And obviously, this is the NLC. We are all the Scandinavian countries and the UK as well. And I do want to ask you, Root, Sunday, something very special happened here in Denmark. Do you know what it is? Something very big. Someone became world champions in something. And if I were to say handball, do you know what that sport is?
I do know what handball is. Yes, I thought it was going to be rally kart racing. It wasn't that,
No.
but handball.
What is that?
You race cars down hills and in the snow. Did you win at handball?
Yeah, Denmark became
Danes.
the back-to-back world champions at handball. And you know who they beat?
Sweden.
The French.
Oh!
No. Sweden got knocked
Hold
out by France. So, we took revenge for Scandinavian brothers. Regardless, though, that's your fun fact of the day. And I just wanted to get that out there because I'm a proud Dane.
Thank
And
you.
every time we do something good, I will mention it. And I will not let it go because sometimes it's good to be proud of your country. I know you UK folks can't agree with that because you live in the UK. I'm sorry. I made a lot of enemies
No
by that
comment.
statement.
I choose not to pass comment on
And with
that one.
that, and with that, I think we'll throw to a break before I get 5 UK roadmen starting to knock on my window and asking where I am. I'll throw it to a break. See you then. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And me and Rude are very lucky here today because to anyone in the chat, I sadly don't speak French. I chose to learn Chinese in my gymnasium, so I can't explain this to you guys. But if I were to put it simply, wow, no play for long time. Pause big. I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know if that works. But my main
Yeah,
point
I
is
don't know if that's...
we won't be seeing Nord for a while.
Yeah, so to give context to those of you who are still flooding in, we haven't yet finished Uniq versus Riddle. That game is still paused. We're waiting for that game to be unpaused. We're no closer to knowing when we're going to be unpaused as well. To give full transparency, we are still waiting on any tech updates or issues on that, but we put the 3-minute timer on, and me and Duckling are here to entertain, so we're just going to do our best podcast style vamp session that we've ever done, and then we'll go back into the game, and we'll all of a sudden have to remember where we were in that game as well. But yeah, that's the state of things. Sometimes we've got to do the content on camera.
Yeah, you know, do you know the song that the French guys produced when they won the World Cup in 2018? You know, the A Little Bit?
No, not that one.
It's actually a banger. I don't speak French, but it's really good. And
okay.
I said that I was going to be the bearer of bad news, but I have just been yelled in the ear by my producer that we will have the game back in 1 minute. Yet again, it's TV time. It could be 1, it could be 20, but it's a good sign.
What they thought, all that's happened there is our producer thought that there was a chance Duckling was going to keep singing, and they went, okay, I don't care what happens, we have to play this game, like, immediately. It needs to be played now. This is of the utmost importance. If Duckling starts singing, then the viewership tanks, and we are absolutely gone.
We're actually back in the game. I am surprised. So, yet again, to all those coming to watch Uniq Esports, the game with Riddle and Uniq is not done. When this game is done, we will have break-intos, and then we will be watching Uniq Esports play. But for now, Riddle will just barrel down towards the base of Uniq as they are 11-0 on the kill board, 6,000 gold lead, and they are in control.
Reminder, they've taken this mid lane inhibitor. I really like this style of approach to closing out the game now. They've got 3.5 minutes before the next Drake spawns. They are unfortunately out of a Baron timer. So they've broken open the base with this one. They may have to delay another few minutes to get another Baron to close out this game. Syndra wave clear against non-Baroned up minions actually is fairly potent, so it makes it fairly difficult to step up to these turrets. But thus far, with a mid lane inhibitor down, it does give for a really good map play to be played for Riddle. They can go to the side lanes really easily, have those super minions in the mid lane, act as that 6th member of the team, and force a pushing lane that somebody has to answer to on Uniq. And they have spotted out a high note. Yep, they did. And that was, I think, 3 skills.
They killed him.
Yep.
Yeah,
that was, I think, 3 skills total.
Though. Yeah, that is very, very tough to come back from. Pedersen had much time to react, as he was unable to use any of his summoners. The base is now broken open, has been for quite a while. Reptile is still just power farming. They have 3 Chemtech Drakes in their pocket. Could wait 2.5 minutes to get the soul, but Riddle don't even need to, I feel like. They could just force one fight on in the game, right?
Yeah, the issue that if there's a fight to be had, it's on Uniq to give it to them, right? I think that right now the Uniq turtle strategy is fairly strong. They're just sitting within the walls of their base, and Pedersen found out firsthand that if he leaves the base, there's bad things that are waiting for them. And obviously going down there, not the worst situation. There were no objectives to be particularly fought for as a 5-man unit, but that little bit of extra gold is always going to feel nice for Riddle. You can see them playing very nicely around these side lanes as well. They've pushed in every side lane and let mid do its work. They've also taken 4 resets at the same time. Got to shout out Fire Rain for desyncing his recall here and putting the team a little bit off speed. But with 4 people going back to base at the same time, it's largely synchronized. And as this 4 anyway, they can pretty much act as a 5-man because they are so strong anyway.
Yeah, let's see what Johan will do here to Antwer. Just a reminder, Antwer is building tank, by the way. If you're wondering how his HP bar is deleting so quickly, well, that's because Johan is very fed as he is forced to flash away from that chain of the corruptions. 30 seconds of the Baron if they want that. Are Riddle just trying to annoy the entirety of France by delaying this game, or are they actually just waiting for the Baron here?
Yeah, like I say, I think they just have to wait for the Baron. Wave clearing versus Varus Syndra is, or as Varus Syndra, is a little too easy if you don't have the Baron, so we're just waiting for that big purple worm to get taken down, and then you can move potentially into the Drake Soul as well. They've got a fair few options, but the game is fairly plug and play right now. Should be easy for them to find an objective and then take a win from it. You need to keep your eyes though on Nihu. He's got mega building.
Horn called the farm Cyrex, and they will absolutely delete him. Was there any doubt after the first 11 kills come through that this would be what we would be watching a couple minutes later? An absolute bloodbath as Riddle find 4, and this will surely close out the game.
Yeah, mid isn't pushed in. They're going to head to the top lane instead. They'll have to hit down 1 extra turret, but that is none of their concern. They'll quite happily batter down the hatches and send themselves to a 3-0 start for Riddle, putting Uniq down to that 0-3 metric. All 5 members do eventually fall. Peterson finding the rough end of the 1v1 stick up against Fire Rain, and now it's Riddle doing their victory lap.
This is that victory lap. Peterson was killed in the bot lane by Fire Rain. He wasn't able to even get back and try and desperately defend that base, and it took 35 minutes. But they didn't die a single time, as Riddle will move themselves up to a 3-0.